Hello, I've been asked to do a video about exactly how you go about greasing your clutch bearing. This needs doing weekly, and these are the tools that you need. You need a combi spanner. This is the old type with a flat blade end, or a screwdriver with a flat blade end. Tuning screwdriver is handy as well. Get the circlip started as it comes off. And you need some grease. And some blue roll or a bit of clean rag is pretty good. I'll show you why in a moment. Right, going to demonstrate on this MS241C. Most of the saws that we use with the firm that's asked me to do this video are MS362s, but they're all out today, so demonstrate on this one. This is exactly the same, except the individual components are slightly smaller. So you pop it down on its side, remove the retaining nut. This one's only got one. The MS362 of course has two. That pops off, and we see that this particular saw has been a bit lacking in maintenance, in that this side cover is completely full of material. When you do your course, you're actually told to make sure that every time you sharpen your chain, you clean this out and make sure it's clean. This soaks up chain oil. One of the issues that MS362s have is that the clutch drum bearing is starved of lubrication, and that can wear the crank. See my other video for exact details on that. So we'll clean that up in a moment. Take off the chain and guide bar, and then you can see if we get rid of this bits and bobs, which is upside down of course. There's the whole saw's upside down, holding for the camera. You've got your sprocket, and this sprocket is integral with the clutch drum. On our MS362s we have a rim and spline sprocket on the clutch drum. As it comes off, make sure you know which way it's come off, and that's quite easy. I always fit them so that the still writing, because these are all genuine still sprockets, not Oregon, is the same way as it came off, and I always fit it outwards. That's important because the chain beds into the sprocket and wears the sprocket. You see this one's very worn, and if you refit the sprocket without renewing it, you fit it the other way round, you suddenly get aggressive wear on the drive links of the chain. That will make your chain run loose in extreme instances as it beds in. That pops in there. Now this one, best way to get this off is to push down on the retaining washer, put the chain brake on, and then a tuning screwdriver. Get that started. Try not to stab yourself, that's what the blue roll's for. And that pops in there, and you can winkle it out. This is the E-clip, not a circlip. Circlip's a different thing. It's a kind of circlip, I guess. And this is a fairly new one, in good condition. Whereas this one is an old one. And hopefully the GoPro will pick this up. There's wear here. This one will need replacing as soon as possible. You can see a step here. That shouldn't be there. The other fault you can get on these is that these two ears here spread. See where it's thinner here? And it won't sit on there and retain it properly. If you get a fault in this thing can go AWOL, and then the whole of this sprocket can come out the side. As we can see on this component here, which is a cover from MS362, looks all right looking at it from that point of view. But if you look inside, see the whole of the sprocket and the chain and everything's tried to make a bid for freedom, taken out a buffer, taken out the rear buffer, big cracks here, big hole here, and big cracks here. So it's done its job, nobody got hurt, but maintenance should have been better. Right, what we got here is some baler twine, and that can work its way into the bearing and again help starve it of oil. And in certain circumstances, this is polypropylene. It can get really hot and it can melt, forming a plug. So that pops off. Check the inside. Best to do it with blue roll rather than a finger. Always wear gloves, either chainsaw gloves or a pair of these, but be careful with these. They protect your skin from the oils and the breakdown products of the oils, but they're fairly fragile. If you get a lump of metal on here, it can go right the way through. So this is nice, in good condition. This is where the clutch runs, in this section here. And then you look on the inside, clean that out. Make sure that it looks like that, so nice and shiny. Hopefully you can see the shiny inside. Whereas this one, which is off the MS362, is knackered. You can see that in here, you can probably hear the screwdriver on it. It's rough. You've also got a lot of wear here, where that sits on this raised lip. On the MS362 it's the same, which is the nut on the clutch, and basically the whole thing rocks and it can damage this circuit groove and help the thing come out the side. So this one's knackered. If it looks like that, take the saw out of use until you can replace this, because this is going to damage your crank and right your saw potentially. This is the bearing. One off an MS362 looks like this. See, they're different sizes. This one has fewer rollers, which I think is a contributory factor. And they're both plastic cages. So if this gets hot, the cage can melt. So with your blue roll, nice clean bit of blue roll, clean that off. Make sure the bearing's free of grit. And a little bit of grease. If you haven't got grease, you can use a little bit of chain oil. Any lubrication is better than none. Pop him on there. Now on the outside of the clutch drum, you've got the drive slot, which fits in with a little quill, which is very difficult to see, especially on this saw. MS362s are easier. And that sits down in here. And if you put your tuning screwdriver in, you can usually pick the thing up. Having said that, where are you, little beggar? There it is, it's there. Take my word for it, because that slot has got to line up with it, because if you put it in and it's misaligned, you're going to bend it and the oil pump's not going to work. And you've got a little jobby here which tells you where that slot is when you put it back on. So that's got to line up. And to check that that's in the right place, take my glasses off. Put your sprocket back on, if you've got a movable sprocket. Put your retaining washer on and make sure you can see the bottom of the circuit groove, which you can here. So that's in place. On the MS362, you'll find that it sits like that when it's located properly. If it sits like that, you know you need to find that drive quill and make sure it sits in this slot. So you pop him on there. Notice there's two types of these retaining washers. Well, there's bent tin type, or you have the ones on the MS362s, which are much more robust. And on this type, meant for the bigger saws, the E-clip sits in there much better. It's much better retained and much better protected from shock loads and foreign objects. But on this little saw, this one's absolutely fine. Pop him in there. You should be able to start that with finger pressure. You've still got the chain brake on, and then you can stick the back of your combi spanner on there and push. And you should clip on, and make sure that that's well seated, because you can miss. Then you reassemble, and that is all there is to it. Thank you very much.